Oh, what are you doing there? Introduction to one of my films. How are you doing? I'm. I've had a recent commission to paint something for a record cover. It's been about I don't know, about 6 months or so since I last picked up a paintbrush, and I've forgotten how to do it. But I expect it'll come back to me. I've just got an underpainting at the moment. It's kind of a fantasy scene. I won't say too much about it because I think the guy wants to keep it a little bit confidential until the record's released. I've always been a painter, you know. I reckon I was a painter well, call it an artist, when I was very, very young. Me and another guy, this is an early memory, but I still remember this man's name. Well, he was a boy then, same age as me. We were about 8, 9 years old. His name was Peter McClure, and he lived in the house next door to me in this place, Shirley Oaks Children's Home. Well, in those days it was called Shirley Oaks Residential. Well, actually, it was renamed Shirley Oaks while I was living there, and I lived there from the age of about three or four. Four. Must have been four because before then, at age 3, I was in another place called Langley House Children's Home. Anyway, this Shirley Oaks was named Shirley Oaks while I lived there. It used to be called, as I say, something else, Shirley Oaks Residential. And Peter McClure and I used to go around with our little drawing books doing drawings. I don't know how many I can't remember how often we used to do it or how many we did, but anyway, that's what he and I used to do. And at other times, I would always also be drawing. I used to like to draw little jungle scenes. I used to like drawing palm trees and things like that. Do palm trees grow in the jungle? I don't know. But anyway, that's what I used to like doing. And I always carried on drawing and painting whenever I could, even when I left that children's home when I was about 11 years old. I remember being given a watercolor set for a gift, a birthday or something, and I'd be painting away and drawing. I used to like drawing. I used to copy the headlines, what they call the masthead of a newspaper, like the Daily Express used to have I can't remember exactly, but it used to have quite an ornate masthead of. It might have been a dragon, something like that. Might have been George and the Dragon. St. George, who's a very popular flag nowadays, isn't he? Or this last few weeks, anyway. Yeah, so I've always been drawing and painting, and when I went on my first ship, I was drawing the shipmates, my shipmates, doing portraits of them, and that's how I really got into it. And then in my days, in my errant youth, when I found myself in various establishments at the pleasure of Her Majesty, I would paint and draw and write poetry and love letters. I love writing as well. So I used to write love letters and poems for the other cons. Um, Quite a lot of whom were illiterate. Um, not to the great extent, but they couldn't write. They couldn't embellish words the way that I don't know how I do it actually, but I do love poetry and I love writing. And yeah, so that's how I would. I'd never be without tobacco when I was inside, uh, because tobacco was the currency. And I would do a picture, a paint. If I was able to get some paint, I would uh, paint a picture of their loved ones or their kids. Yeah, so I've always done paintings, and it's served me quite well. It's never made me a vast fortune, but there, obviously in times in the nick when you could do with a cigarette, that it's a good thing to be able to do. And yes, I used to write love letters, and these hardened, some of them really tough guys, hardened criminals, used to love. They used to love the fact that the love letters were all sort of lovey-dovey, sort of, you know what I mean? And which I doubt. I mean, when they're out with their missus or their girlfriend or whoever, I doubt very much whether they were the most romantically inclined people. But once they were incarcerated, uh, romance and love became very important to them, as it did to me when I was inside. Not that I. Well, at one time I was inside and I did lose my girlfriend. I got a dear John. Uh, so yeah, I did have some idea of what it's like to miss someone who you love or, well, thought I loved or needed. I needed. She was gone. I don't blame her. Uh, yeah, I don't, I don't know why. I don't know where this is all coming from. Sometimes it's a bit fantastical, isn't it? You know, I once sat next to a guy sewing. We were sewing mailbags. Now, I'm not sure if this was in Wandsworth prison or Wormwood Scrubs. Wormwood Scrubs was a kind of an easier going prison, but Wandsworth was a tougher place. Wandsworth was the type of place where if you didn't behave yourself and you gave the screws too much grief, you'd find yourself thrown down a flight of stairs, or you'd find yourself accidentally falling down a flight of stairs, which happened to one mate of mine. Uh, those are tougher days. You only want to get thrown down a flight of stairs because they were steel stairs. I don't know if you've ever seen the inside of so I don't know if you've ever seen the inside of a prison, but of course I think modern prisons aren't anything like this. These were uh, stark Victorian places, long narrow buildings with 3 or 4 flights. There's always netting in between in case you got thrown over the edge or wanted to do yourself in by jumping over the edge. Uh, what was I talking about? Oh yes, I was going to tell you I was sitting next to this guy, and he was a really nice bloke actually to chat to, but he was actually in for murdering his wife, chopping her up into bits, and distributing the parts all around London. I think in litter bins. I think he got found. He got found eventually. Found out eventually when a fox was spotted carrying a severed arm around a London. Oh dear. Yeah, but he was a very. I was going to say he's a very nice chap, which he was to talk to. I mean, some of the people who are in for really heinous crimes, they're all normal, apart from the fact that they've done these terrible things. Well, obviously, they're not all normal, are they? But I was normal. I was just an idiot. That's why I was in there. So yeah. Oh yeah. We were sewing mailbags. I'm pretty sure it must have been Wandsworth because Wormwood Scrubs was an easier going place. And one day the screw came into the cell. Yeah, it was Wandsworth. I remember now. I've got a reason to remember. The screw came into the cell, and with his nightstick, it was in the morning, and he put his nightstick across the bars, the window bars, just to check that we hadn't sawn through them. God knows how we would have done that. Although stranger things have happened in prison, haven't they? Yeah, so he did that, and then he said, fucking hell, you're going to kill yourself with that stuff. We'd been smoking weed. It was the first time in my life that I'd ever smoked marijuana, and that happened in a prison cell in Wandsworth. There were 3 of us in this cell, designed for probably 2. But anyway, we were all in this, and we'd been smoking, and we were all quite merry. We were happy little smokers. We were giggling because we'd had on remand. We were on remand, so on remand you can have food parcels brought in. Well, you could have certain items brought in, and you couldn't have fancy food or anything, but you could have things like a loaf of bread. So we had this loaf of bread, and we were dipping into it, and we were taking it out a slice and pretending it was a steak or pretending it was some other exotic meal, and we were giggling away. And anyway, the guy came in, and he must have gone out as high as we were. Anyway, he said, you're going to go to work this morning if you want to. You didn't have to do it. I did want to. I wanted to get out of the bloody cell, so I went, and yeah. So for a few mornings, a few days, I would sit with a load of these murderers, gunmen, and gangsters, and that, sitting sewing mailbags. I remember. I think we had to have 12 stitches to the inch, and if you didn't get it right, you had to do it again. I remember one bloke getting really angry with himself because he couldn't get it right. I think he was almost in tears, and he was a bloody tough guy normally, but he just wanted to get this right. Yeah, so that was one of my little jobs in the nick. So yeah, so I used to keep myself busy. I used to serve my time by, I escaped. Not literally, but I escaped into books and art. I could do my whole sentence. I could read my way through a whole sentence, and time would pass. I love reading as well. That's what I used to do. Oh yeah, and so I was showing these. I'll finish this because I'm getting on. It's 13 minutes and 18 seconds. Yeah, so I was selling these mailbags, and then after I came out of that time, I went to get a job on the railway. You could walk into jobs then. You could tell all sorts of lies on the form. Didn't have CVs, you just filled in a form. And I got a job on the railway after I'd been in Wandsworth and Wormwood Scrubs. And yeah, got a job on the railway as a guard on the trains. Listen, don't tell anyone this because I might get in trouble. But I was a guard on the Royal Mail, on the Royal Mail trains, with all these mailbags full of recorded deliveries and all sorts of stuff, all money and everything in them. I never took any. I didn't. I did behave myself. But it's quite ironic, isn't it? I was probably looking after some of the bags I'd actually sewn myself. Anyway, I've got to get on with my painting. It's 10 to 11 at night. I'll probably paint for a couple of hours. And hopefully then I'll be able to sleep tonight. Nice to see you. Thanks for looking in. Oh, I'm wearing a suit because this is not an affectation, but I always put this suit on when I'm painting because it makes me think makes me feel as though I'm doing a proper job of work. I've done it for years. It's not just something I've thought up. Nice talking to you. I hope I see you again soon. Hello, everyone. Hello to all the subscribers and the new subscribers. Oh, just on that note of subscribers, I've lost, probably 100 subscribers in the last few months. But on my Facebook accounts page, it tells me I'm gaining subscribers. Like the last video I did, I got 3 new subscribers. And yet, the stats are showing us that I lost about 10 subscribers. So I don't know if you can believe all those things about what they put on these statistics. Rabbiting on. I hope you're happy now, because I got told off the other day because that last video I made, I didn't talk. Look after yourself. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.